Over the last several decades, trillions of dollars have flown into market cap weighted strategies, and that's solved a very important and simple thing for investors, which is low cost diversified exposure to the market. But I think there's a whole other dimension that now investors are really digging into, which is how are those assets being used from a voting and engagement perspective? For example, from 2015 to 2020, the average S&P 500 fund voted against almost 90% of environmental and shareholder proposals. I think that's a very surprising statistic to many investors. Vote is a really interesting alternative in all of that. From an investment standpoint, it's just exposure to a market cap weighted index. So from that perspective, it's not really changing anything on the investment side for what investors typically have in their portfolios today. Where we're driving all of our value is the work we're doing from an active ownership perspective, which for us really means three things. The first is the way we vote our shares, which is a policy that has a much higher degree of support to environmental and social shareholder proposals. The second is the engagements and the campaigns we run. And as a firm, we've already demonstrated success with ExxonMobil and our engagement with General Motors. And lastly, it's the investors that we bring along with us, really the ecosystem that we can tap into to amplify our voice, whether it's institutional investors, academics, advocacy groups. It's really bringing that cohort of people together. And I think the simplicity about all of this is we're doing all of that for investors without materially changing their underlying investment exposure. So from our perspective, it's really passive investing with active ownership. Here at Engine Number One, we believe that the investments that a company makes in its employees, its communities, its customers, and the environment is related to how it can drive long-term shareholder value. Or said differently, these are not just ideological issues, they're economic issues. And I think investors are really beginning to focus on that right now. The so why now in a more tangible sense, and there's many reasons, but here's one. Most of the shareholder votes come up in the spring. So as investors are really beginning to think about how they can use their voice and how they can use their vote, now is really the time to more deeply understand how is your investment being used across voting and engagement. Well, let's talk about who and then how. So the beauty of Vote is that virtually every investor has market cap investment strategies in their portfolio. So what we've seen since we've launched is that this product has resonated with a very wide range of investors, from individual investors to financial advisors who are building portfolios for their clients to institutional asset allocators. And so the breadth has been really profound. And what we've seen is investors are really using the product in sort of two different ways. The primary way is really what we designed it to be, which is a market cap replacement. So it's for people who have market cap in their portfolio. We've designed the product to minimize friction as much as possible with the investment choice. It's a market cap portfolio priced at 5 basis points. So it's playing the same exact investment role in a portfolio, but it's very different on the active ownership piece. The second is for investors who are building ESG models. And I think a lot of times they're facing what feels like a quandary between performance and investing in alignment with their values. And this is a simple way to keep a benchmark aligned exposure and achieve what they're trying to have from an alignment perspective. But either way, from our perspective, it's really about harnessing the power of these passive investors to drive change from an active ownership perspective.